It's Friday, May 28th, and the time for your Barbados Today morning news update. Topping the news at this hour, residents of the squatters' village at Rockhall St. Philip say they are being left in the dark about a plan to relocate them. Our Karim Smith ventured to the area and filed this report.
During a visit to the community just east of the main runway of the Grantley Adams International Airport, the word on the street was that a few residents were contacted about moving into new homes, but for the most part, persons were uncertain about their status. It also appears that while many are eager to move into new accommodations, others who have already invested significant amounts of time and money are still reluctant to engage government on the process. Instead, they are demanding further details about the terms and conditions of the proposed move. 3 weeks ago, workers from the National Housing Corporation began construction on at least 5 spanking new wooden houses at Parish Land St. Philip. When Barbados Today visited that area on Thursday, scores of men were busy on the job at the northern end of the development. On the southern side, wells were being dug and preliminary work for the foundations of the new houses was underway. Recent reports suggest that 16 houses will be built in that area and another 6 at Leadville St. Philip. This work is said to be the beginning of the scheme to move the squatters from more than 300 illegal houses into 106 government-built houses for which they will have to pay. Numerous efforts to reach Minister of Housing and Lands William Duguid for a more detailed explanation of his plans were unsuccessful. Karim Smith for Barbados Today.
The current COVID-19 directives are set to expire in 11 days, and President of the Petrol Dealers Association of Barbados, Aldo Ho-Kong-King, is eagerly expecting some changes. COVID-19 Directive Number 10, which went into effect on May 18th, will end on June 7th, and Ho-Kong-King is hoping gas stations will get an ease and be allowed to reopen fully on Sundays and bank holidays. Last week, Attorney General Dale Marshall rejected a request from the association for service stations to fully reopen on those days. However, Ho-Kong-King tells Barbados Today he's hoping changes would be made to accommodate those in the sector.
The truth is that we've not heard a reason for retail to close really on those days specifically. But I would hope and I would expect, certainly considering that this week the Minister of Health came out was it yesterday before and announced that we had finally met the targets that we're trying to achieve. I think that certainly opens more businesses to open.
The Labour Department is offering assistance to media workers in a bid to sensitize them of their rights amid complaints from among the fraternity about their terms and conditions of employment. Acting Chief Labour Officer Claudette Hope Greenidge declined to go into details about the complaints being received, but tells Barbados Today she's willing to facilitate a series of virtual programs addressing the various elements of labour legislation, employment rights, and industrial relations. Emmanuel Joseph has the story.
This comes against the backdrop of some members of the media raising concerns about disputed contracts as well as confusion over the role of freelancers.
We know freelance is a term that is, quite popular, particularly with journalism and so on. But each case will be taken on its own facts. Freelance, if you want to equate it with, say, for example, a person who, an employer may say is a self-employed contractor or self-employed, then you look at the various control tests that can be applied. I wouldn't go into those right now, but you look at various things. Who is controlling what? But at the end of the day, you may have those things reflected across 3 or 4 persons who are described as contractors or freelancers in media or otherwise.
The Chief Labour Officer, however, explained that in a case like that, each person's situation would have to be examined on its own merit.
Because there may be something that makes one different to the other, So if a person has a concern expresses a concern to us, they told me I'm a freelancer, so I'm not entitled to this or I'm not entitled to that. We then need to take it from the beginning and go through. What are your particulars of employment? What is your contract like? What happens day to day? We speak to the person, we speak to the employer, we look at how the occupation is normally carried out, and we help the parties come to a determination in that way.
That was the Chief Labour Officer Claudette Hope Greenwich, and I'm Emmanuel Joseph for Barbados Today.
There's regional and international news after this short break.
Barbados Today, news you can trust.
To news from our regional neighbors, the COVID-19 pandemic continues to hit Guyana hard, with increased deaths and positive cases being recorded. Gordon Mosley of News Source Guyana has the numbers as recorded on Tuesday and Wednesday.
The death toll currently stands at 376, with 77 of those deaths recorded since the 1st of May, making this month the deadliest month for the pandemic in Guyana. Regions 3, 4, 8, and 9 continue to see the highest number in new cases. 98 new cases were recorded today. Yesterday, the Ministry of Health reported the highest single-day increase in new cases, as 236 new cases were recorded yesterday. There are more than 2,000 active coronavirus cases in the country, with 109 of those persons hospitalized. The health minister continues to encourage citizens to get vaccinated.
So if you have more people being vaccinated, it would mean that we would reduce the burden of the COVID-19 infection in Guyana. And that's the reason why we have been saying, and we have been working to achieve herd immunity.
And finally, on the international front, the United Nations has launched an urgent appeal for $95 million to address the immediate needs of 1 million Palestinians in Gaza and the West Bank over the next 3 months. UN Humanitarian Coordinator for the Occupied Palestinian Territory, Lynn Hastings, who launched the appeal on Thursday, also warned that the cessation of hostilities reached last Friday after 11 days of intense violations was still fragile.
The coming days and weeks are going to be critical to avoid returning to any active conflict. Humanitarian assistance is already being delivered, and I have released an immediate $18 million from the Palestinian Humanitarian Fund and the Emergency Relief Coordinator has released $4.5 million from the Central Emergency Fund in New York. Maintaining predictable access for goods and staff to enter and exit Gaza is going to be critical to ensure a way forward in Gaza. The people in Gaza have once again endured unimaginable suffering, which has repeated itself over the course of more than a decade. One message that was repeatedly conveyed to me was that the intensity of the escalations were without pause. There was no safe places to seek refuge, to go outside and find food. The appeal that I launched today in Jerusalem requests $95 million to address these needs over 3 months. 1 million people will be targeted to receive assistance.
That's news. But for the very latest, visit us at www.barbadostoday.bb. You can also subscribe to our e-paper, email updates, or like us on Facebook, and sign up for our breaking news alerts via WhatsApp. We're also on Izumi Media in bus terminals, as well as screenplay at supermarkets and gas stations near you. And you can also hear us on Mix 96.9 FM and Capital Media HD 99.3 FM.